Hello, Tim Karen here from Mortgage Choice in Kingsley. I just want to talk about pre-approvals a bit today because my opinion has changed a few times over the years about their value and what they can achieve and their place in the process. I get asked for a pre-approval or whether I can have a pre-approval quite a lot, and in recent years, more to the point since COVID happened, I've been getting asked for pre-approvals far more than I was before that. And that's because people are looking at buying houses in a market that's a lot more competitive. And in a market that's a lot more competitive, having a pre-approval on the surface appears to be the sort of thing that gives you an advantage over someone who doesn't. And I won't deny that that's true. But often there are other ways that are far more effective to solve the problem. When I started being a broker 17 years ago, a pre-approval was the sort of thing that was assessed by a human being at a lender who probably had 10, 20, 30 years credit experience assessing loans. It was quick and easy to get the application in, and it was quick and easy to get an answer that you could hang your hat on because you knew a person with a lot of experience had assessed it. And at that point in time, a pre-approval was something that could be done within a week, pretty reliably, and often turned out to be something that you could rely on, that it would turn out to be a pre-approval from a lender would turn out to be something that they do then fulfill when you buy a house. They don't turn around and say, I know we gave you a pre-approval, but now that we've looked at the application properly, we're not going to proceed. That then became a problem. Over time, what I've seen as a mortgage broker is assessors at banks on average tend to have less and less experience and are following a far more proceduralized process that doesn't allow them to think outside the box and make their own assessments. It's much more of a system of checking boxes and making sure they're not breaking rules. And as a result, a pre-approval is the sort of thing that they don't tend to pay as much attention to, as far as I can tell, or it's certainly not something I feel like I can rely on as comfortably. What happened maybe 10 to 15 years ago is lenders started computerizing their pre-approvals, and they started offering pre-approvals within 2 minutes or 20 minutes and that sort of thing, where you could apply for it online. So rather than putting the application in front of an assessor, they would simply put the application through a computer and the computer would give an answer. Once that started happening, the computer's giving an answer that's no different to what I already know when I sit down with you and have a chat about your options, other than the fact that the computer also does a credit check, which we can do if need be. So submitting an application to a lender for a pre-approval that is not assessed by a human being doesn't really achieve much other than have a piece of paper that says you have a pre-approval, which I admit can be valuable to a real estate agent in a negotiation. But over time, real estate agents became wise to the fact that it was really easy to get one of those pieces of paper and it didn't mean much. And what I found is for probably about 10 to 15 years, leading up until the time before COVID happened, what a real estate agent was prepared to put much more value on was a conversation with me once I've met with a client, because again, I'm a human being, I have lending experience, and I can explain to them why the application is going to work. So for a long time, I believed pre-approvals were largely a waste of time, and there were rare examples where it wasn't, but most of the time it didn't achieve the purpose, and it was extremely uncommon to even need to do one. I would have done, there was probably a 10-year period there where I would have done 3 or 4 pre-approvals ever over that period. They were virtually never necessary. After that, in order to start winning business as the market became drier pre-COVID, lenders started putting pre-approval applications back in front of human beings again in order to be able to offer a service to win business from people like me, to say, hey, if you give us a pre-approval application, we'll actually get a human being to assess it. That becomes valuable again. Not that I necessarily started doing lots of them, but at least some people did. Then when COVID happened and demand for property went through the roof, suddenly I went from hardly ever being asked to do a pre-approval to being asked to do a pre-approval multiple times every week. And as lender turnaround times blew out, getting a pre-approval became something that took 3 to 4 weeks to do, and by the time you've spent 3 to 4 weeks waiting for it, you've missed out on the property, and so it became pointless for that reason. But at least if we'd started the process going and you missed out on a property or two, 3 or 4 weeks later, when you finally do have a pre-approval, you have something that gives you an edge. So by the end of 2020, I had become convinced that pre-approvals were possibly the best way to do things, mainly in order to get 3 or 4 weeks of waiting and negotiating with the lender out of the way, so that by the time you're ready to buy a property, we've done all of that stressful stuff. that can be really stressful when you're on a time frame. Get it out of the way when you're not on a time frame, and then make an offer on a property. That really helped a lot between about October and March 2020 to 2021. What I've observed lately, we're now in June 2021, is that the mania and the panic appears to have gone out of the market. There's still lots of people buying properties, but they're not doing it as desperately as they needed to be earlier in the year. And as a result, pre-approvals no longer seem to be the sort of thing real estate agents are too interested in, anecdotally from the conversations I'm having with my clients. And so we're going back to mainly waiting for a customer to make an offer on a property, have that offer accepted, and then apply for the loan. Or if we've decided to go to a lender that we know is going to take a long time, start that process with a pre-approval earlier. Another layer on top of all of that makes everything easier is if you need something to convince somebody that you're good for it, that you are going to qualify for finance, I can do a loan eligibility certificate that is a lot quicker. It doesn't involve sending an application to a bank. It involves me assessing the situation. And it's basically a page from me that says, I believe you qualify for finance, subject to a list of conditions, valid for 3 months. That's a document that after I've had a discussion with you and I've looked at your evidence, I can produce. And that's the sort of thing that now that the panic has gone out of the market again, a real estate agent, I think, in WA anyway, in Perth anyway, and definitely I wouldn't say it's necessarily the case in Sydney or Melbourne, but certainly in Perth, that's the sort of thing a real estate agent is willing to hang their hat on. What I've seen again lately over the last few months is real estate agents are much more comfortable relying on a conversation with me, maybe a loan eligibility certificate, but most importantly, a customer who has been educated by me that knows why they qualify for finances and actually is able to explain it themselves. So to the question, should I get a pre-approval or can I have a pre-approval? I think the answer is sure, but it depends. And let's have a look at your individual situation and what you're trying to achieve and where you're trying to buy and how much you're trying to spend and how much time you've got, and decide on the best way forward. So if you sit down with me and we talk about that, then I'm going to be able to help you come up with the best solution. And if a pre-approval is the right answer, we can get cracking on it. If there's something more effective that can be done quicker, we'll do that instead. I hope that helps. It's a complicated question and it's a hard one to answer. And that's probably why this video has gone on for 7 minutes. But there it is. Thanks.